Mixed outlook. Stronger policies needed to revive exports and address trade deficit. For South Korea, a nation heavily dependent on exports for its economic growth, the continued slump in key export items such as semiconductors catch a dark cloud over the forecast for the second half of this year. Attention is now placed on the economic plans and projections the government will announce next week for the second half of this year. Ahead of the crucial announcement, Finance Minister Chu Kyung-ho hinted at the government's policy focus. The country will strive to revive exports, stimulate investment, and maintain price stability, Chu said before a closed-door meeting with officials Wednesday. Chu acknowledged that while inflation has slowed and the job market remains relatively robust, Korea's exports continue to decline due to the challenging external environment. In May, Korea's overall exports declined for an eighth consecutive month with a 15.2% year-on-year drop to $52.24 billion. This decline was driven by a staggering 36.2% decrease in semiconductor exports, reflecting the weakening global chip demand. Given that semiconductors accounted for nearly 20% of the country's exports last year, the lackluster demand for chips comes off as a negative factor, especially regarding the outlook for the second half of this year and beyond. Chu, however, expressed confidence that the overall economy will improve in the latter half of 2023, despite the lingering uncertainties in the market. As far as consumer sentiment is concerned, the new signals are clearly positive. According to the Bank of Korea, the Composite Consumer Sentiment Index rose to 107 in June, marking the fourth consecutive month of increase and reached the highest level in 13 months. A reading above 100 indicates that optimists outnumber pessimists. The positive reading seems to be driven by the acceleration of post-pandemic activities and the decrease in inflation, as well as expectations of economic recovery. But the key question is whether exports will indeed rebound in a way that powers the overall economic growth momentum in the coming months. The BOK data released Wednesday suggests the road ahead is unlikely to be smooth. Korea's terms of trade continued to drop for the 26th consecutive month in May, as export prices fell faster than import prices. Preliminary data from the central bank showed export prices sank 14.4% on year in May, while import prices declined 11.9% over the same period. As a result, the country's net terms of trade index for goods fell by 12.8% last month compared to the same period a year earlier, following a 0.4% decline in the previous month. The index is an indicator for the amount of imports a country can buy for each unit of exports, the data showed. Also on Wednesday, the Korea International Trade Association, a trade lobby group, projected that the country's trade deficit will persist in the second half of this year before staging a U-shaped recovery in the long term, helped by a steady decrease in trade deficit. KITA forecasts Korea's exports will decrease by 3.1% on year to $322.7 billion in the second half of the year, while imports will drop by 12.4% on year to $323.9 billion. It said a trade deficit would reach $1.2 billion in the latter half of this year. KITA's full-year projections are not optimistic either. Exports are projected to decrease by 7.7% to $630.9 billion compared to the previous year, while imports are forecast to drop by 9.7% to $660.5 billion, translating to a trade deficit of $29.5 billion for 2023. But government officials are sanguine about a recovery in trade figures. For instance, Trade Minister Ri Chang-yang said Tuesday that the trade balance for June, to be announced on July 1st, is expected to improve, even floating the possibility of a surplus. The actual outcome is likely to fall somewhere in the middle. The mixed projections underscore the obstacles faced by Korean export exporters in the global market settled with a string of uncertain factors, such as the war in Ukraine, policymakers are required to map out more forward-looking steps to beef up the competitiveness of Korean exporters and address the structural issues related to the country's extended trade deficit.